You know that feeling when you click Add to Cart because the laser cutter head looks like a sleek upgrade on the product page, only to discover once it's mounted that the beam isn't cutting the thickness you expected, or the alignment takes forever to fine-tune? I've seen a lot of hobbyists and small shop owners get that same disappointment, especially when the specs look perfect on paper but the day-to-day reality turns out to be a lot more finicky. That's why I'm breaking down the Raytools original fiber laser cutting head BT2202D, a 2 kilowatts medium/low power head that promises high performance for CNC fiber laser machines, so you can avoid wasting time and money on a tool that doesn't fit your workflow. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of machines this head is built for. The BT2202D is meant to slot into a CNC fiber laser system that already has a decent motion platform. Think a 1-meter work envelope, reliable linear guides, and a controller that can handle 2 kilowatts of continuous power. If you're still running a DIY rail kit or a low-grade stepper system, you'll probably notice the laser's power outpacing your motion accuracy, leading to uneven cuts and a lot of wasted material. In other words, this head shines when the rest of your setup is already solid, not when you're trying to upgrade a shaky foundation. From the specs you can see it's a 2 kilowatts unit, but the real story lies in how that power translates into cutting ability. In my conversations with a few small metal shops that have already installed the BT2202D, the common use case is cutting mild steel, stainless, and aluminum sheets up to about 5 mm thick. For those thicknesses, the head delivers a clean, straight kerf with minimal burrs, which means you can jump straight into welding or finishing without a secondary deburring step. One user mentioned that on 3 mm stainless the cut was so clean they could skip the usual polishing, something you rarely see with lower power heads. If your daily work revolves around thin to medium gauge metal, that precision matters more than the headline 2000W number. Installation is where many first-time buyers stumble, so I dug into the manual and a handful of YouTube walkthroughs. The BT2202D is advertised as easy to install, and that mostly holds true if you have the right connector kit and a compatible power supply. The head uses a standard fiber cable and a quick-release mounting bracket that slides onto the existing laser rail. The real hidden trade-off is the need for a stable, water-cooled power source. The unit draws a lot of current, and if your shop's cooling loop isn't sized for continuous 2 kilowatts operation, you'll see thermal drift and the laser's focus can shift after a few minutes of cutting. In practice, I've seen shops retrofit a larger chiller rather than risk overheating the head, which adds to the overall cost. Now, who should actually consider buying this ray? If you run a small to medium metal fabrication business that regularly cuts 2 mm to 5 mm sheet metal, especially stainless or aluminum, the BT2202D gives you that extra margin of speed and cleanliness without jumping to a 4 kilowatts system. It's also a good fit for prototype workshops that need reliable cuts for functional parts. Think brackets, enclosures, or even light structural components where edge quality saves time later. On the flip side, if you're a hobbyist who only punches out a few 1 mm parts a month, the upfront cost and the need for a robust cooling system probably outweigh the benefits. The same goes for anyone looking to cut thick plate, over 8 mm, on a regular basis. You'll hit the power ceiling quickly, and a higher wattage head would be a wiser long-term investment. When it comes to practical strengths, the first thing people notice is the beam consistency. Because the head is built around a fiber laser source rather than a CO tube, the beam stays tight across the whole 2 kilowatts range, which translates to less variation when you switch from steel to aluminum. That consistency also means the eye-safe interlock works reliably. You won't get surprise laser flicker that forces you to stop the job and recalibrate. Another plus is the durability claim. The housing is machined from anodized aluminum, and owners report that the head tolerates the occasional dust ingress that you get in a busy shop without needing a full clean room environment. It's not a miracle gun that never needs maintenance, but the modular design lets you swap out the fiber source or the nozzle without taking the whole machine offline for days. On the weakness side, the unit does have a noticeable learning curve for focus adjustment. Because the BT2202D is optimized for both 2D and limited 3D cutting, the focus lens sits on a motorized stage that you have to program into your CNC controller. If you're not comfortable tweaking the offset or you rely on a generic CAM package, you'll spend a few extra hours dialing in the right parameters before you can start a production run. Also, while the head itself is built sturdy, the documentation,